Welcome to the Rare History Channel. 5 unsolved mysteries we can't stop thinking about. The 19th and 20th centuries had several events that investigators find baffling, and people worldwide still wonder about them. These events range from unexplained sightings, mysterious disappearances, and unsolved crimes that still leave people puzzled. These mysteries have created several theories and legends that people continue to find fascinating. We will go through the theories and evidence uncovered so far and understand why these cases continue to intrigue us. If you love the unknown and enjoy a good mystery, join us on this discovery journey. Number 1. The Pollock Sisters. Florence and John Pollock married in the 1940s and had 2 sons before welcoming 2 daughters, Joanna and Jacqueline. Despite their age difference, the sisters had a close bond and enjoyed playing together. However, tragedy struck on May 7, 1957, when the 2 sisters and a neighborhood boy were hit by a car, killing all 3 children instantly. The driver, who had just lost custody of her own children, was attempting to take her own life. The sisters' deaths caused Florence to fall into a deep depression, while John believed that the girls were in heaven or would be reincarnated. John had a fascination with reincarnation and prayed to God to bring his daughters back. Florence, a strict Catholic, did not share John's belief, and this created tension in their relationship. However, when Florence became pregnant again, John believed that there were 2 babies despite the doctor only seeing one on the scans. Twins were born, and they had the same birthmarks as the deceased sisters. As they grew up, the twins requested toys that had belonged to their sisters, knew about landmarks only Joanna and Jacqueline would have known, and demonstrated knowledge of street safety without being taught. The story of the Pollock sisters was studied by Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychologist who studied reincarnation. He included their case in a book that detailed 14 cases he believed to be evidence of reincarnation. Despite the controversial nature of reincarnation, the story of the Pollock sisters remains a fascinating and mysterious one. Number 2. The O.J. Simpson Case. On June 13, 1994, the bodies of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald L. Goldman were found stabbed to death outside of Nicole's townhouse. Nicole was the ex-wife of former football superstar O.J. Simpson, and at the time of the murders, the 2 were divorced and living in separate residences. The bodies were discovered by neighbors who were led to them by Nicole's dog, which had been barking incessantly. The timeline of events leading up to the murders is as follows. On June 12, Nicole and her children, along with others, went to the restaurant called Mezzaluna at 6:30 p.m. Later that evening, Ronald Goldman went to the restaurant to pick up Nicole's mother's glasses. Meanwhile, O.J. Simpson and his friend Brian Cato Kalin went to a nearby McDonald's for dinner, returning home at 9:45 p.m. At 10:25 p.m., limo driver Alan Park arrived at O.J.'s home to take him to the airport. At 11 p.m., O.J. left on a red-eye flight, and at 12:10 a.m. the next day, Nicole and Ronald's bodies were found. During the investigation, a blood-stained glove, a knitted hat, and a bloodied footprint were discovered at the crime scene. Upon landing in Chicago, O.J. was informed of Nicole's death and subsequently questioned by the LAPD for 3 hours. On June 17, O.J. was charged with 2 counts of murder and declared a fugitive. The infamous high-speed chase involving police and O.J.'s white Ford Bronco ended at his home in Brentwood, California. One of the most publicized trials in U.S. history followed. O.J. was represented by a high-profile defense team, known as the Dream Team, which included Robert Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, and Alan Dershowitz. The prosecution was led by Deputy District Attorneys Marcia Clark and William Hodgman. The defense team argued that there was reasonable doubt concerning the validity of the state's DNA evidence, and the jury ultimately acquitted O.J. on October 3, 1995. No other suspects have been questioned, and the murders of Nicole and Ronald remain unsolved. Number 3. Escape from Alcatraz. Alcatraz, a high-security prison in San Francisco, was deemed inescapable because of the strong currents and cold water surrounding it. But, in September 1961, inmates Clarence Anglin, John Anglin, Alan West and Frank Morris requested cell moves that brought them closer to an unsecured vent in cell block B. By using handmade tools, they were able to enlarge the ventilation grates and create holes to access a utility corridor, where they climbed to a landing spot above their cell block to create their escape tools. After months of planning and preparation, they successfully escaped the prison by making life preservers and a 14-foot rubber raft out of prison-issued raincoats. When the guards realized that the prisoners were missing, they found footprints on the ground and roof of the pipe where they climbed down, and discovered the hidden workshop, the hole in the ceiling, and the dummy heads. Despite the wide-scale search by the FBI, Coast Guard and Bureau of Prison Authorities, the escapees and their raft were never found. Number 4. The disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. James Riddle Jimmy Hoffa, the former president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters from 1958 to 1971, wielded immense power and influence during his tenure. As the head of the powerful labor union for drivers, Hoffa helped the Teamsters control more than 90% of the U.S. transportation industry. However, his success was not without controversy. Hoffa's connections to the mafia were widely known, and he famously hired them to eliminate his rivals in a turf war in Detroit in 1941. The relationship between Hoffa and the mafia was mutually beneficial. The mob was able to take loans out of the Teamsters Pension Fund, which was then used to finance Las Vegas casinos, while Hoffa and the fund received a favorable return on the loans. Despite his ties to organized crime, Hoffa remained popular among Teamsters members for his efforts to increase wages and benefits for workers. However, his fortunes took a turn in 1967 when he was sentenced to 13 years in prison for bribery, jury tampering, and mail fraud. Hoffa's release from prison in 1971 was conditional on his abstaining from union involvement until 1980. However, his disappearance in 1975 brought about his ultimate downfall. On July 30th of that year, Hoffa was last seen at a Detroit area restaurant where he was to meet with Anthony Tony Jack Giacalone and Anthony Tony Pro Provenzano, both mafia members. However, the meeting never took place, and Hoffa vanished. Despite extensive surveillance and investigation, no one has ever been charged in relation to his disappearance. While many investigators and historians believe that Hoffa was murdered by his mafia enemies, his body has never been found, and key details of the case remain unknown or unprovable. Number 5. The murder of Bugsy Siegel. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, the notorious gangster and founder of the Flamingo Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, was born into poverty and crime in Brooklyn, New York in 1906. Alongside his friends Meyer Lansky and Morris Mosedway, Siegel engaged in teenage thuggery, terrorizing street vendors and extracting protection money from rival gangs. By 1937, bootlegging was no longer profitable, and Siegel and Sedway were sent to California to expand the mob's presence on the West Coast. Siegel then shifted his focus to gambling and invested in the SS Rex, a gambling ship docked off the coast of Santa Monica, which was ultimately shut down by authorities. With legalized gambling in Nevada, Siegel saw an opportunity to operate without fear of legal repercussions, and in 1945, he took over the construction of the Flamingo Hotel and Casino, the first luxury hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. Despite the Flamingo's unfinished state, Siegel opened the casino in 1946 with a grand opening attended by famous celebrities. However, due to Siegel's skimming, the project's budget had grown from $1 million to $6 million, leading to tension with the mob who expected greater profits. On June 20, 1947, Siegel was assassinated by an unknown assailant using a .30 caliber military rifle while sitting on the couch at his mistress's Beverly Hills home. The killer was never identified, but it was widely believed to have been carried out by Siegel's own associates.